Have you ever felt as if life was testing you in ways that others couldn't possibly understand? As if unseen forces were pushing you to the very edge, breaking you, shaping you, and remaking you? If you're here, it's not by accident. Something inside you has already awakened. You feel the weight of the world differently. You see through illusions that others accept, and deep down, you've always known. You are not here for an ordinary life. You are not cursed. You are chosen. Not chosen to stand above others, but chosen to walk through the fire, to endure the hardest trials, and to become a beacon of light in the darkest times. Every chosen soul faces 7 spiritual tests, each one a crucible that strips away illusions and forges true strength. These trials are not punishments, they are initiations. And once you recognize them, you begin to see that every hardship you've endured has been preparing you for something greater. Today we will walk through these 7 tests together. Prepare yourself, because once you see them clearly, there is no turning back. The first test, the awakening of consciousness. One day everything changes. It's not gradual. It feels like a switch is flipped inside you. The life you once knew begins to collapse. The lies of society, the masks people wear, the illusions that held you in place, they all begin to shatter. You start to ask questions that burn inside you. Why am I living a life that doesn't fulfill me? Why do I stay in shallow relationships? Why do I feel so empty even when I seem to have everything? This is the painful awakening. The moment your soul decides it can no longer sleep, it brings loneliness. The conversations and distractions that once entertained you now feel hollow. The person you used to be dies in this awakening, and those around you feel it. They may try to pull you back, but you can no longer pretend. And with this awakening comes sensitivity. You feel energies, emotions, and vibrations more strongly than ever before. Crowds overwhelm you, noise drains you. At first it feels like a curse, but in truth it is your first gift awakening. The hardest part, you no longer know who you are. Your old identity has dissolved and the new one is yet to emerge. Most turn back here. But if you keep going, you step into the second test. The second test, the dark night of the soul. You thought awakening would bring peace, but instead it brings silence. The connection you once felt with the divine suddenly disappears. No signs, no guidance, no comfort. Meditation feels empty, prayer feels unheard. You cry out to the universe, but it does not answer. This is not depression, it is spiritual desolation. A black night where even hope seems swallowed. During this time, your deepest wounds resurface. Childhood pain, forgotten traumas, and hidden fears all rise to the surface at once. It feels unbearable, as if your soul itself is being torn apart. But the dark night of the soul is not punishment. It is purification. The universe is not abandoning you. It is stripping away everything false so that what remains is real. The only way through is surrender. Trust the darkness even when you cannot see, because beyond this night a rebirth awaits. The third test, sacred isolation. Now comes the test of aloneness, not chosen by you but arranged by the universe. People you relied on begin to drift away. Relationships end, friends disappear, family feels distant. You find yourself standing alone, with no one to lean on. At first it feels like rejection, it feels like punishment. But in truth it is sacred isolation, a divine arrangement to force you inward, because in silence you hear your own soul. Without distractions, you discover your inner strength. You realize you are not truly alone, you are accompanied by the divine within you. This test is not easy. Loneliness cuts deep, but those who endure it emerge unshakable, because they have found the one connection that never leaves, their own eternal spirit. The fourth test, the purification of pain. When isolation has stripped away your dependencies, pain arrives to strip away what remains. Losses come in waves: jobs, relationships, money, health. Everything you thought you needed begins to crumble. Your body may ache with illnesses doctors cannot explain. Your heart may break with grief that feels unbearable. You may hit rock bottom, left with nothing but yourself. And yet this is where transformation begins. Pain is the fire that burns away what is false. Every tear cleanses, every loss opens space for something higher. Pain humbles you, it breaks your illusions of control. And in that breaking, it purifies your soul. You begin to see pain not as your enemy, but as your alchemist, refining you into gold. The fifth test, the confrontation with the shadow. Just when you believe you have survived the worst, the universe hands you a mirror, and in it you see not your light, but your shadows. Your anger, jealousy, pride, and fear, all the parts of yourself you tried to deny, rise to the surface. You realize that the flaws you judge in others are reflections of your own unhealed parts. It is terrifying to face these truths. The spiritual image you built of yourself begins to collapse. You see that many of your so-called virtues carried hidden motives. Your generosity held a need for approval. Your compassion held a desire to feel needed. This test demands radical honesty. You must embrace your shadow with the same compassion you offer your light. For only when you integrate both do you become whole. Light without shadow is illusion. True strength is born when you accept all that you are and transform it. The sixth test, the awakening of spiritual gifts. And then something extraordinary happens. Gifts awaken. Visions, dreams, intuition, the ability to sense energies. You discover powers you once thought were fantasy. But this is a dangerous test because what looks like a reward can become the greatest trap. The ego, which you thought you defeated, now finds new ways to rise. It whispers, "You are special, you are above others." Spiritual superiority is poison. If you use these gifts for pride, power, or personal gain, you fall back into illusion. These abilities are not yours to own. They are given to you as tools of service. The true victory is humility. To use your gifts not for self, but for the healing of others. To remain grounded, remembering that power means responsibility. The seventh test, the supreme sacrifice. And finally, the greatest test of all, the supreme sacrifice. The universe asks you to surrender everything you thought you wanted. Your dreams, your plans, even your deepest desires. It asks you to lay down your personal will in exchange for divine will. This sacrifice feels like death. You grieve the life you thought you were meant to live. But when you surrender with love, something miraculous happens. What you lose is replaced with something greater. Love deeper than you imagined, purpose higher than you planned, and paths more aligned than you ever dared to choose. The supreme sacrifice is not about loss. It is about liberation. It is the final release of the ego's control and the full trust in the divine flow of life. The mission of the chosen soul. And when you have walked through these 7 fires, you are no longer the same. You are not perfect, but you are real. You carry wisdom born of suffering, compassion born of pain, and light born of darkness. Your mission is clear: to be a guide for others still walking the path, to hold hope for those lost in the night, to remind the world that no matter how dark it gets, dawn always comes. You did not endure these trials for yourself alone. You endured them to become a living testament that transformation is possible, that healing is real, that the soul is indestructible, and so, chosen soul, shine. The world is waiting for the light only you can bring.